In the last video, we already looked at Ludwigshafen Central Station. We looked at its history and its layout. Today, we are looking at the lines that stop at Ludwigshafen Central Station. The only long-distance train that stops at Ludwigshafen Central Station is ICE 1091 from Saarbrücken to Munich, which departs at 7:05 am. The service is run with a 7-car ICE 4. Until the end of 2025, EC 217 still ran on this route, continuing beyond Munich to Graz. The train ran with ÖBB rolling stock and 2 Class 1116 locomotives, also known as Taurus. Most lines that stop at Ludwigshafen Central Station are part of the S-Bahn Rhein-Neckar, a suburban train network. The S1 is the longest suburban railway line with a stop in Ludwigshafen, covering 209 kilometers and taking over 3 hours to complete the journey. It connects Homburg-Saar in the west with Kaiserslautern, Neustadt an der Weinstraße, Ludwigshafen, Mannheim and Heidelberg. It also runs along the Neckar River to Moosbach-Baden and onto Osterburgen. The line runs hourly along its entire route and is supplemented by the S2 line, which runs hourly between Kaiserslautern and Moosbach-Baden. The S3 consists of 2 hourly loops that complement each other on their shared section every half hour. The large loop runs from Karlsruhe via Bruchsal, Heidelberg, Mannheim, Ludwigshafen, Germersheim and Wörth am Rhein back to Karlsruhe. The small loop runs from Bruchsal via Heidelberg, Mannheim, Ludwigshafen, Germersheim and Graben-Neudorf back to Bruchsal. The 2 main branches are connected several times a day. The following services run from Karlsruhe via Heidelberg to Kaiserslautern and Homburg. S1 38102 at 4:36 am from Karlsruhe to Homburg-Saar from Monday to Saturday. S2 38254 at 5:31 am from Karlsruhe to Kaiserslautern from Monday to Friday. The service operates to Schifferstadt coupled with S3 38302, which continues on the small ring. In addition, there's S2 38220 at 6:54 am from Karlsruhe to Kaiserslautern on Saturdays, or S2 38216 at 7:02 am on Sundays. The service operates to Ludwigshafen/Schifferstadt coupled with S3 38402, which continues on the small ring. In the opposite direction, the following services operate: S3 38315 from Kaiserslautern to Karlsruhe at 5:54 am from Monday to Friday. S2 38217 from Neustadt an der Weinstraße to Karlsruhe at 6:40 am from Monday to Friday, with S3 38319 from Karlsruhe being coupled on in Schifferstadt. S3 38327 from Homburg-Saar to Karlsruhe at 7:19 am, Sundays from Neustadt. S2 38415 from Neustadt an der Weinstraße to Bruchsal at 7:42 am on Saturdays and Sundays, with S3 38405 from Germersheim being coupled on in Schifferstadt. And finally, the night train S3 38385 at 1:11 am to Karlsruhe, Saturdays and Sundays from Kaiserslautern, Mondays to Fridays from Ludwigshafen. 2 services run from Karlsruhe via Germersheim, Mannheim and Heidelberg to Moosbach-Baden or Osterburgen. These are S2 38209 at 5:45 am from Germersheim to Moosbach-Baden from Monday to Friday, and S1 38111 at 7:26 am from Karlsruhe to Osterburgen from Monday to Friday. However, the wildest service is this one. At 5:40 in the morning, a train consisting of services S2 38204 and S4 38400 departs from Karlsruhe on its way to Mannheim via Bruchsal and Heidelberg. It arrives in Mannheim at 6:50 am. In Mannheim, the two parts of the train are separated, with the front part, S2 38204, continuing on to Kaiserslautern at 6:56 am. Simultaneously, a train consisting of services S1 38152 and S2 38218 has already departed from Osterburgen at 5:08 bound for Mannheim, where it arrives at 7 am and is coupled to train section S4 38400. The three train sections travel together to Schifferstadt, where the rear train section is uncoupled and later continues on to Neustadt an der Weinstraße. The two front sections continue to Germersheim, where the rear section is parked and the front section continues towards Bruchsal. The aforementioned lines all stop here at the lower level platforms on the relation Mannheim-Schifferstadt. The trains, especially at off-peak hours, are also often coupled and uncoupled in Schifferstadt or Heidelberg. Lines S5 and S6 stop at the upper level platforms. Line S5 connects Mainz hourly with Mannheim and Bensheim. It is complemented to a half-hourly service by line S6 between Mainz and Mannheim. This line continues from Mannheim via Graben-Neudorf to Karlsruhe, with some trains terminating at Graben-Neudorf. S5 38502, heading north at 6:24 am, runs from Bensheim via Mainz to Wiesbaden, returning at 10:37 am as S5 38507 to Bensheim. At 4:55 am, S6 38669 Nice runs from Worms to Mannheim and from there continues as S10 to Biblis. Similarly, S6 38617 will run from Mainz at 6:53 am. And finally, S6 38680 to Mainz, departing at 7:55 am, is a through service from an S8 from Aglasterhausen and an S7 from Eppingen. Besides the aforementioned lines, there's also line S44 connecting Ludwigshafen Central Station with the BASF. The line only has 4 stops, 3 of which being on the BASF area. In the morning and in the afternoon, the line is also connected through to the surrounding area. Towards the BASF, the line is mentioned as S44. In the opposite direction, the trains run as S1, S2 or S3. The first train from the hinterland is S44 38051 at 4:50 am from Kaiserslautern. It is followed at 6:12 am by S44 38053 from Germersheim. S44 38055 departs from Neustadt at 6:24 am as the second section with S1 38109 to Osterburgen and is split in Ludwigshafen-Mundenheim. S44 38057 arrives from Karlsruhe at 6:47 am. 6 minutes later, S44 38059 arrives from Homburg-Saar. S44 38061 from Karlsruhe will then arrive at 7:12 am. The last train to BASF will arrive from Germersheim as S44 38063 at 7:31 am. In the opposite direction, one morning service continues past Ludwigshafen Central Station. To be precise, S3 38054 to Karlsruhe at 6:09 am. On Saturdays, this train runs at 6:10 am as S33 38052 to Bruchsal. At 3:45 pm, S2 38072 and S3 38074 run to Neustadt Weinstraße and Germersheim. The train is split in Schifferstadt. S2 38092 runs at 4:20 pm to Neustadt Weinstraße. At 4:39 pm, S3 38080 will follow to Germersheim. S1 38082 will run to Homburg-Saar at 4:51 pm. Finally, S3 38084 will run to Karlsruhe at 4:59 pm. 3 regional express lines stop in Ludwigshafen. RE4 runs every 2 hours from Frankfurt to Karlsruhe and is the only line besides the BASF services to stop at the Worms-Schifferstadt platforms. It is supplemented to an hourly service by RE14 from Frankfurt to Mannheim. At weekends, this train usually passes through Ludwigshafen Central Station. RE14 4753, which departs at 6:37 am, continues beyond Mannheim to Heidelberg, returning as RE1 4113. And that brings me to the RE1. At 331 kilometers, The RE1 is the third longest regional express line in Germany, connecting Mannheim with Kaiserslautern, Saarbrücken, Trier and Koblenz. The line runs hourly and does not normally stop at the main station, instead stopping only at Ludwigshafen Mitte. Exceptions to this in the direction of Mannheim are the RE services at 6:09 am and 7:38 am. In the opposite direction, the RE services at 7:44 am, 3:44 pm and 4:44 pm. These then usually only stop at the main station and not at Ludwigshafen Mitte. RE 4144 at 7:38 am continues beyond Mannheim to Heidelberg and returns from there as RE 4115. These were all lines that stop regularly at Ludwigshafen. Besides the named lines, there are single services of other lines that also stop at Ludwigshafen. At 4:29 am, Monday through Friday, RB 45 13301 departs Ludwigshafen and travels via Frankenthal to Neustadt an der Weinstraße. Several trains on the RB 46 line continue on to Ludwigshafen or Mannheim. Monday to Friday, RB 13517 departs from Monsheim to Mannheim at 7:53 am, and RB 13529 departs from Grünstadt to Ludwigshafen at 8:48 am. The former then continues as RE 45 13334. More on this later. On Saturdays, RB 13522 runs from Ludwigshafen to Ramsen at 6:53 am. And in the opposite direction, RB 13513 runs at 7:13 am, RB 13519 at 8:16 am, and RB 13595 at 9:44 pm. RB 13754 departs from Fürth im Odenwald at 7:29 am as RB 69 to Worms. From there it returns to Mannheim as RB 35 13829 at 8:23 am. There it travels together with the aforementioned RB 13517 as RE 13334 to Kaiserslautern at 9:48 am. The train returns to Mannheim at 4:16 pm as RE 13324. Both trains are marked as RE 45. From Mannheim, it then departs at 5:22 pm as RB 35 13858 to Bingen-Rheinstadt. Also on line RB 35, RB 13859 from Bingen-Rhein Central Station at 11:33 pm heading towards Mannheim. On the RB 69 line, RB 13816 from Weinheim arrives in Ludwigshafen at 6:05 pm. Last but not least, Flex operates the so-called Elsass Express, which you might know from my German videos about Worms and Mainz. In the morning, the train travels as RE 81491 from Mainz to Wissembourg at 10:14 am, and in the afternoon back as RE 81496 at 5:33 pm to Mainz. Up to 6 different train classes can be spotted stopping in Ludwigshafen, although 3 of these are actually just variations of one vehicle type. The majority belong to DB Regio, with Class 425 and Class 463 Siemens Mireo on the S-Bahn, Class 429 Stadler Flirt 3 on the RE lines, and Class 622 or 623 Alstom-Coradia Lind on the RB lines. Flex uses Class 620 Alstom-Coradia Lind for the Elsass Express. The Lind can be found in 3 different lengths in Ludwigshafen. The 41 meter long Lind of Class 623, which consists of 2 cars with 1 door on each side per car, is supported in the middle by a Jakobsbogie and has 2 engines. There's also the 54 meter long Lind of Class 622, which also has 2 cars, but with 2 doors per car and a total of 3 engines. Each car also has 2 of its own bogies. At 81 meters, Flex operates the longest variant of the Lind. The trains run as Class 620 and are, so to speak, a Class 622 with an additional center car with another engine. The trains have an entry height of 580 mm, sliding steps and a maximum speed of 140 km per hour. The Rhein-Neckar S-Bahn is dominated by 2 vehicle classes. The S1, 2, 3, 33, 4 and 44 lines use almost 70 meter long Class 425 railcars built between 1999 and 2008. The vehicles have 4 cars, each with 2 doors, a floor height of 780mm, offer just over 200 seats and have a gap bridging device in the form of a step. On lines S5 and S6 on the other hand, new Mireo vehicles from Siemens are used as Class 463. The vehicles have 3 cars, each with 2 doors, and a total length of just under 17 meters. The entry height is 800mm, the gap is bridged by sliding steps, and there are approximately 150 seats. The sliding steps are even long enough to almost completely bridge the gap on track 2. All S-Bahn lines are generally operated with single or double traction, although triple traction is also possible. 5-car Stadler Flirt 3 multiple units of Class 429 are used on RE lines 1, 4 and 14. The vehicles have only 4 doors per side, however they offer 270 seats, with large tables in the 4-seater groups. The entry height is 76 cm and a sliding step closes the gap between the train and the platform. The RE1 usually operates in double traction, while the RE4 and 14 lines usually operate in single traction. Ludwigshafen Central Station is connected by 3 bus and 3 tram lines. The tram lines are in a tunnel below the surface. 2 of the lines connect Mannheim with Ludwigshafen and other towns. 1 line is completely within Ludwigshafen. The tunnel platform has 4 platforms, 2 of which are not in regular use. Those are the old platforms connecting Ludwigshafen main station with the BASF. And that should be everything you need to know about Ludwigshafen Central Station. It's a bit sad that this place is quite uncared for, even though it's quite an interesting station. But until next time, bye! In that video, we looked at its history and its layout. Today, we are looking... In the last video, we already looked at Ludwigshafen Central Station. Mann, Heiko! Laut jetzt. Rennt, Leute, rennt, rennt, rennt! Rennt, Leute, rennt, rennt, rennt! The aforementioned lines all stop here at the lower level platforms. Machen wir gleich nochmal. The trains are also coupled and uncoupled, mainly in the off-peak hours. Borderless Swiss Quality! Jo, und jetzt das Ganze nochmal in English. In English, please! Wie bin ich denn eigentlich überhaupt im Frame? Ich habe das Gefühl. And that would be it. Since it's pretty much a very interesting place. Bin ich überhaupt noch im Shot drin? And that should be